to Griffon Update Sports, a student-produced show all about Missouri Western athletics. We've got it all every week. Highlights, games, players, fans, and every sport all year long.
Welcome to Griffon Update Sports. I'm your host, Bailey Ketchum.
And I'm Jake Michael. On today's show, we're going to take a look at the conclusion of the women's basketball season, baseball's weekend, and NFL Pro Day.
We'll also have our Player of the Week and test your knowledge during our sports trivia segment.
And of course, we'll have our roundtable discussion about a hot sports topic.
This week, we're discussing the Wild March Madness tournament.
My bracket was busted before the second round. Speaking of basketball, Missouri Western women's basketball Cinderella season has come to an end. Reporter Bo Baker talked with the team.
For the women's basketball team, this season was anything but easy, but these ladies continued to fight night in and night out.
Challenging, extremely challenging. You know, I've never been in a situation where in 3 months we lose, 4, 5 players?
Going in, 10-1, and then after the injuries started happening, it just kind of started falling apart for us, and then we went, out of the last 14, 15 games, we lost.
With the adversity this team had to go through this season, it is always hard to keep a positive mindset, but these two made sure that everybody kept their heads up.
We were in every game until the last 3 minutes, and that's what most games came down to, so we use that for motivation a lot. I mean, we can compete with these top teams, just have to get it done.
Any type of pep talk or anything, we all listened and we all appreciated it.
Even though their promising season was destroyed by injuries, this team was able to make history by being the first 12th seed in the MIAA to make the MIAA Conference Tournament semifinals.
When we got in this year, I almost felt more, I was more grateful for it because no one expected us to be there.
It was great, actually, because no one thought that we were gonna, keep going.
With almost a complete roster returning next season, it will be interesting to see how a healthy women's team will stack up against the competition. For Griffon Update, this has been Bo Baker.
It's awesome to see how far they went after such a challenging season. Up next, our current player of the week.
This week, it's softball outfielder Shelby Ewell. Softball is on a hot streak, with Ewell being named MIAA Hitter of the Week. Ewell's also been a constant leader on the team. Jake has more on this amazing outfielder.
Many know how hard it is, even for a professional baseball or softball player, to hit for the cycle in a game. Missouri Western softball's Shelby Ewell did just that in a blowout win against Wayne State College on March 17th. This historical achievement won her now a second MIAA Hitter of the Week honor. Sluggers like Ewell noticed things that were different about her game this year compared to the last couple of seasons.
I'm being more patient in the counts this year and really working each of my at-bats. I'm taking advantage of good pitches, and then I'm being more selective at the plate, so I think I've been being able to produce a little bit better than I was last year.
She comes from Pleasant Hill, Iowa, where she was a second-team All-State selection and hit .321 for her career. Throughout her life, she's had her fair share of influences that got her to where she is today.
My brother was a big influence on me. He played baseball all hit throughout high school and everything, so we would always go hit together and play catch and stuff, so I think he was my biggest influence growing up for baseball.
Fast forward in time, already a junior, she hopes to be the quiet yet flamboyant leader the team needs to compete in the biggest games. And as the leadoff hitter, her slugger's mentality really sets the tone for the team on offense. Ewell has all the tools to be a success in the sport, and yet she knows the direction she's headed after softball.
I don't graduate until next May, but I have an internship this summer at the Federal Reserve, so I'll be down in Kansas City, and I'm an accounting major, so I think I'm going to take the CPA exam once I graduate, so I'm not really sure where I'm going to end up, but I definitely want to stay in the Midwest.
Okay. Though the overall record may not totally reflect the team's improvement, the Griffs have plenty of momentum thanks to the play of Ewell and a collective team effort. For Griffon Update Sports, I'm Jake Michael.
I can't wait to see more of their success. The women played Northeastern State last Thursday, winning both games and split against Central Oklahoma on Friday.
As for baseball, they played Pittsburgh State at home this last weekend. Reporter Morgan Doyle has more on the games.
The Griffons' 9-game win streak came to an end this past week to none other than conference opponent Pitt State. Games 1 and 2 took place on Thursday, with the Griffs losing 11-3 and 6-3. Game 3 was a nail-biter, though, as the Griffs were up 2-1 heading towards the end of the game, but Pitt was able to tie it up in the 8th, sending the game into extras. The Gorillas then scored 2 more runs in the 11th to win the game 4-2 and take the whole series. Starting pitcher of Friday's game was Nate Hunter, who knew going into the series that Pitt would put up a fight.
Pitt coming in is pretty good. They're one of the top teams in the conference so far, and we knew that we had to come in and be a little more focused and a little more energetic to face these guys. Coming off last weekend from SBU, still on our win streak, and then winning a pretty big game on Tuesday versus Emporia, kind of brought our intensity up, and we were too up for those games maybe to not be so up for this series. But I mean, most of the guys are drained. We had a lot of days where we were practicing, a lot of games, and road trips, and on a 9-game win streak we were very tired and kind of dead.
Notables included Hunter, who pitched a little over 7 innings while only allowing 2 runs. On the offensive side, Dusty Stroop went 3 for 6 and Will Jibus went 3 for 5, with each of Western's 1 through 6 batters recording a hit. Head coach Buzz Verduzco said the Griffs would need to work on their execution moving forward, as there were multiple unsuccessful attempts at bunts throughout the series, as well as 14 stranded base runners in Game 3 alone. The Griffons are now 14-12 and will take on Missouri Southern March 29th, 30th, and 31st at the Spring Sports Complex.
Have a little more fire under our selves to win that and start a new win streak.
For Griffon Update Sports, I'm Morgan Doyle.
I don't expect the team to let that happen again. This weekend, they are home against Missouri Southern.
Last Friday was NFL Pro Day here at Missouri Western.
I hear there were players from all over Missouri here.
Yeah, there was. It was an exciting morning. I was able to cover all the Western prospects. Check out how it went. Friday, March 23rd was a day that 9 former Missouri Western players will never forget as they competed in NFL Pro Day. There were former players from all around Missouri, but it was the day to shine for Missouri Western players as they competed in several tests against 17 NFL scouts.
It was amazing. It was everything that I expected. I've been dreaming about this since I started playing football. Like every day I wake up, I think about putting on an NFL helmet. And with this opportunity presenting itself, I enjoyed it all.
The Missouri Western players talk about how it felt to be able to do it at their own school.
You're going with guys you played with the last 4 or 5 years, and you're going against guys that you played against the last 4 or 5 years. So it's definitely, it's just a bigger advantage for us. We've done this. We've been here for 5 years. We've done all the work in here and out of this arena. So it's just a home environment. So it was nice.
Senior defensive back Jonathan Owens was one of the biggest competitors of the day.
My numbers kind of exceeded my expectations a little bit, so I know I rank up there with a lot of the other guys who went to the NFL Combine. I think I got the highest vertical, so that's exciting. I trained down in Fort Worth, Texas for the last 2 months. It was a great experience. I was there with a lot of guys from the Texas area, kind of all over the country, and they all had the same goal, training every day with me, waking up, eating the same healthy food. It was a mental grind, but I'm glad I went through it. I mean, they saying there's a chance I could get drafted, so that's exciting. I got business set up with teams right now. Right now I got one set up with the Cardinals, and I'm sure after today a lot more teams are going to be hitting up my agent and asking to get me out there.
All the players that made it through will now play the waiting game to see what's next. This is Bailey Ketchum for Griffon Update Sports. I can't wait to hear about what's next for all of them.
One of the things we do here at Griffon Update Sports is to make sure we give the students on campus a voice and see how much they know. Check out our sports trivia segment, Do You Know Your Sports, with Bailey Ketchum.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now.
So this week we're talking about March Madness. Coy, what has been the biggest disappointment this year in the tournament?
Biggest disappointment for me is probably that Michael Porter Jr. kind of choked it away. Like, he didn't live up to his expectations at all.
Who do you think is going to win the whole thing?
I would have to say KU because I went there for a year, so I'm kind of a big fanboy of them.
Okay, if you could describe this year's tournament in 2 words, what would it be?
Upsets.
What has been the biggest surprise for you this tournament?
I'd say Oklahoma losing so early with Trae Young.
Who do you think was the biggest disappointment this year in the tournament?
Oh, I would say Carolina because they lost to Texas A&M.
Who do you think will win it all?
Well, I was really pulling for Missouri for a local favorite, but I think Villanova's got what it takes to go all the way this year.
Who is your favorite team in the tournament this year?
UMBC, because they knocked off number 1 seed and I like underdogs.
What has been the biggest upset for you this year?
The biggest upset has got to be the 16 seed winning over the 1, UMBC beating Virginia. That was, 1 in a million.
Who are some of your favorite teams that you're watching in this year's tournament?
Villanova's always pretty exciting, but I was really rooting for Duke, mostly because of Grayson Allen.
Who do you think is going to win it all this year?
Oh, Villanova, because they have a well put together team.
All right, there you have it.
I agree with all those people. This tournament has been crazy.
Agreed. We'll be right back with more Madness trivia after this break.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to our sports trivia segment. Today, 3-time champion Dawson Whitman and Bo Baker will be competing against each other in sports trivia. The winner, as usual, will be on the show next week. Let's begin. This week, it's all about March Madness. Question 1. Who was the overall number 1 seed? Dawson.
Virginia.
Correct. How many times has a number 16 team upset a number 1? Bo.
Never. This year was the first time it's ever happened.
Correct. What team in the tournament had the mascot of a retriever?
UMBC.
Correct. Where was the Midwest Region Elite 8 played? Bo.
Omaha.
Correct. Who does Jalen Brunson play for? Dawson.
Villanova.
Correct. Who was the first upset of the tournament?
Was it Loyola Chicago over Miami?
It was. What team's nickname in the tournament is the Mountaineers?
West Virginia.
Correct. Who has been the longest appearance? Who has been the longest appearance since their last time?
I want to say Loyola.
Correct. Who is in the Final Four? Dawson?
Villanova, KU, Loyola Chicago, and Michigan.
Correct. When are the Final Four games being played? Bo?
March 31st.
Correct. Last one. Who will win the tournament?
I think Kansas is going to win it all.
Kansas? Dawson?
Oh, I do not like KU, so go Michigan, go blue.
All right. I like Michigan as well, but once again, you are the winner, so you will be on the show next week. We'll be right back with our sports roundtable after this.
At Missouri Western, it's on us.
It's on us, all of us, to take responsibility and stop sexual assault.
To create a campus environment where everyone is safe and feels safe.
To realize that ending sexual assault is not an individual endeavor,
but a collective effort.
To understand that it affects not only students, but faculty and staff members alike.
At Missouri Western, we take action.
It's on us to look out for each other and not look the other way.
We step up and say something.
We support survivors. We are going to be a part of the solution and not the problem.
It's on us to intervene and take responsibility.
So take action because we can and will make a difference.
At Missouri Western,
it's on us
to put an end to sexual assault.
Begin by taking the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back. Jake and I are here along with Griffon News sports editor Derek Zimmerman-Geyer to talk about March Madness. Jake, what are you thinking about this craziness so far?
Well, this tournament really has lived up to its name, March Madness, and it surely has been that. I love the storyline of UMBC beating Virginia. They didn't just beat a number 1 seed; they beat the number 1 overall seed. So that is definitely something to pat yourself on the back for. Everybody was up in arms, like, "Oh my gosh, tournament's ruined." But I like that the Retrievers won because it shows that 1 seeds are vulnerable in the first round, and it took 34 years for it to happen. So while everybody's up in arms about it happening, just know that it's probably not going to happen for a while. I always thought Virginia was a fluke. I never was a fan of how they play basketball, the slow pace and the defense and all that. That's all cute, but they didn't have a great score, and that's why they couldn't come back and dig themselves out of that hole. Looking back at my bracket, it blew up. Yeah, just like that. Arizona, I'm still very bitter about that. I don't know how I'll recover from that because Buffalo just shot the lights out. North Carolina ran into a really good Texas A&M team that was a 7 seed, but probably was better than their seed that they got. And then Kansas and Villanova were there, just like I expected.
I knew it was downhill for me once Oklahoma lost in the first round. That was my I picked them in the opening game, and that really set the tone. Especially UMBC beating Virginia, that set the whole tone for the whole tournament. I mean, I think there's been an upset in every single round, and some people want to discredit the wins and the runs that some teams have had in this tournament, and it's the national tournament. I mean, it's at the brightest of lights, and I think it's hardest to win at that level. But as for Virginia, them losing, that's an atrocity.
Yeah, when the tournament starts, it could be everyone's last game, so I think everyone plays to their highest ability all the time, so you never know what's going to happen, and that's why they call it madness. But, Derek, you were right when we were talking about our last predictions. Texas Tech and Texas A&M both have did very good. They knocked out my Tar Heels, which I'm a little upset about. I was a little accurate on my Michigan prediction because they're still here. I think of the remaining teams, Michigan has one of the best defenses. In their last game against Florida State, they contested 90% of their shots. So I think it's really hard when they apply their pressure, it's really hard to crack their defense. And I'm hoping in the game against Loyola that their defense is similar to their offense because that's where they've struggled. So Loyola having a very quick team, lots of good agility with Clayton Custer. I think it's going to be a very defensive, offensive game for that one. So that game's going to be a little unexpected, I think. Jake, you were right about Kansas. They made it. I was hoping that they wouldn't, but Kansas and Nova, that's going to be a crazy game. I think that type of game is going to be a championship game just because you have Jalen Brunson and Devontae Graham going up against each other. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and I don't think that the two best teams are going to play in the championship. I just don't feel that way. Just because there's been all the upsets, and you can't blame Loyola for getting to where they are. You only play who's in front of you. Yeah, that game between Kansas and Villanova is going to be tough because you have two teams that sort of play the same style, but Villanova is very good at getting up the floor, and they're really going to push the ball up the floor. But because Kansas kind of plays small ball a little bit, not with Udoka Azubuike on the floor and Silvio De Sousa, but he can still get up and down the floor too. So it's going to be very fast-paced. You're going to see a lot of offense. Villanova's the number 1 offense in the country, so they're going to definitely put points on the board. Michigan's also – I was skeptical about them because they lost a lot of offensive star power without Derek Walton and DJ Wilson and Zach Irvine. So I was interested in seeing how they were going to compete on offense. But, they get it down the defensive end of the floor, and I think that's why they're where they're at today.
Well, based on the Kansas and Duke game, which is a great game itself, Nova and Kansas is going to be great also. But I honestly think, even though Kansas had a great run, and I said they, I think they're due last time, I think that game should have went in Duke's favor. It should have. That last shot by their Grayson Allen. Yeah, it could have went in, and it could have been a different whole story. But again, so I think Nova will edge out the victory there. And as for Loyola and Michigan, I think Loyola has just too much momentum. I think this is the most momentum we've seen from a team in the tournament in a long time. So I'm going with Nova and Loyola.
See, Loyola is on a good hot streak, but they also haven't faced, I think, the NBA talent that's coming up in these remaining teams. So I'm going with Michigan on that one. I think that they'll pull through, but Villanova, I think, is definitely the highest remaining team, but as they've been in the past tournaments, they're not as unique in this tournament with the remaining teams because all the other teams have quick guards, can shoot threes like Nova can. And so I think I'm torn between that one. I'm going with Nova, but I think KU, I don't know, I think it's going to be like an overtime game, but KU also needs to watch out with their foul trouble because that's been an issue with them in their last couple games. But I'm still going with Nova.
Yeah, if Azubuike can stay out of foul trouble, he's fouled out the last 2 games. That's going to be a huge lift for Kansas. As for my predictions, I don't think it's really a contest between Michigan and Loyola. I think, let me just give you this stat, okay? In their first 3 games of this tournament, they won by a margin of 1.3 points, okay? Now, granted, they put quite a beat down on K-State without their best player. I just think that the luck runs out. It's a great story. I'm glad that they're here, but I just think that Michigan will put the beat down on them. For Villanova and Kansas, that could definitely be a classic. It really could be because I think Kansas they've competed in the most competitive and the toughest region in this whole tournament. They're the more battle-tested team, in my opinion. Just look at the teams they had to go through. It was just crazy. I mean, they had to go through Duke, who could have very easily been in the Final Four right now had they been in a different region. So I like the Jayhawks. I like Michigan, and I got to roll with my Jayhawks. They got to win the whole thing, right?
Well, as for Michigan and Loyola, like I said, I don't think anything's definite. It's March Madness. Anything's going to happen, and anything has happened, especially with the 16th seed beating the 1 seed. You can't say that.
Yeah, I think from the last time we talked about this, none of us knew that this was going to happen.
No, nobody did.
I had no idea.
No.
But I'm going Michigan, Villanova in the last one, and then Villanova winning it all. After this break, we'll take a look at more results from our teams and this week's upcoming sporting events. Welcome back. Before we end the show, we want to give you more updates about what's going on with all Missouri Western sports.
Women's tennis was home this weekend against Fort Hays and pulled off an awesome 6-3 victory. And women's golf placed 5th overall in the Pack Springs Invitational.
For the upcoming schedule, softball heads to Central Missouri on Friday and Southwest Baptist on Saturday. Women's tennis faces Lindenwood on Friday and return home against Nebraska Kearney on Saturday. Men's golf travels to the Upper Iowa Invitational on Thursday and Friday. And men's and women's track and field will compete in the Emporia State Invite on Saturday at Emporia.
That's all we have for you today. For more information on Griffon Athletics, check out gogriffons.com. Also, check out Bailey's Sports Report on Griffon Update next week.
We've got you covered every week. From all of us here at Griffon Update Sports, thank you for watching.